Hello, dear viewers of Linda. I hope you're having a wonderful day. But there's a story that's making us all reflect. Why did the gangsters come to Quang's house to demand money from his mother? What did Quang do to make these thugs come looking for him? Does his mother have enough strength and luck to get through this dangerous situation? And does Linda know anything about this? When those gangsters are standing at the door, what will happen next? Will things get worse? We'll find out together and follow these dramatic and unexpected twists. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe so you won't miss any details. Quang's mother was tending to the plants in the garden, but her mind was filled with worry as it had been a month with no contact from her son. Every day that passed, she could only wait for a phone call, but it seemed to only make her anxiety grow. One afternoon, while she was gardening, a car suddenly stopped in front of the house. Two tall men with cold and stern expressions stepped out. They looked at the house as if they already knew this was where Quang lived. Without greeting, they simply called out his name. Upon hearing her son's name, she hurried out. In front of her stood the two strangers. She didn't understand why they were looking for her son, but with a polite and concerned demeanor, she invited them inside. At that moment, she tried to stay calm, though fear was building up inside her. Once inside, she offered them water and asked why they were looking for Quang. The leader looked at her coldly and replied, "We've been trying to reach Quang for the past few days, but haven't been able to. Today, we're here to meet him in person." Quang's mother began to feel uneasy, but she thought perhaps they were just here to help her son during a difficult time. However, what happened next left her completely stunned. The leader began explaining that Quang had borrowed a large sum of money, up to 3 billion VND, to invest in stocks. Now the gangsters were here to collect the debt. Quang's mother couldn't believe her ears. She couldn't understand how Quang, someone who had always been honest and never involved with criminals, could be tangled in such a massive debt. The leader said nothing more silently, handing over documents and figures proving that Quang had indeed borrowed money from them. As she looked at the documents, she began to realize that this wasn't a joke. She didn't know what to do. Quang had disappeared. She had no money to pay the debt, and she certainly didn't know anyone in the underworld to ask for more time. Looking at the two men, she understood they weren't the type to change their minds. Finally, the gangsters gave her a choice: pay the debt immediately, or they would take her house. Feeling helpless and desperate, she knew there was no way out. She realized that if she didn't sign the papers, the debt would double in interest by next month. With a heart full of pain, she signed the papers, hoping this would spare her from further pressure. With every stroke of the pen, she felt like she was losing everything. The house, a place full of memories of happiness and sorrow, shared between mother and son, no longer belonged to her. As the two gangsters started walking around the house, putting up eviction notices, she stood still, feeling like everything was falling apart. She packed her belongings into a suitcase, each item reminding her of a happier time. But now, everything was just a memory. When she handed the keys to the leader, her hand trembled. That was the last time she would see her home. She took one last look. Before stepping out the door, the house was gone. The eviction notices on the door were a declaration of the end. Her heart was heavy, but nothing could be changed. All she could do was walk away, leaving everything behind. Her footsteps were heavy, each one feeling like it stretched on forever. Quang's mother didn't know where she would go or what she would do, but the long road ahead was all she had. The memories, the pain, everything lingered in every step she took. She walked in silence, no one by her side, no one to share her sorrow. Linda woke up early, just like every other day, with sunlight already streaming across the garden. She stepped outside, holding her familiar plastic basket, ready to pick melons for the market. The wooden door creaked open, revealing the garden in front of her, with rows of lush green melons, their round, full fruits heavy on the vines. Linda could feel the fresh morning air, the soft sun rays brightening her garden. But in her heart, the sadness about Quang never seemed to ease. Linda walked gently through the garden, carefully lifting each melon so as not to break or bruise them. Each melon carried the sweet taste of the earth, but her heart was full of longing. She missed Quang, missed the happy days spent with him, the afternoons they'd spend together in the garden, tending to the plants and talking about their future dreams. Now, after a month of no contact, her heart tightened every time she thought of him. Was he okay? Had something happened to him? Linda couldn't answer these questions, and that made her even more anxious. She continued picking melons, but her mind was filled with images of Quang. Each melon she placed in the basket felt like a piece of the memories she shared with him, a part of the sweetness she still cherished. She remembered his voice, the way he would tease her whenever she worried about work or trivial matters. She missed the warm look in his eyes when he gazed at her during those peaceful afternoons. But now, all those moments were nothing more than memories. Memories she could never touch. Each time she picked a melon, Linda felt like her heart was being torn apart, as if she was leaving behind a part of herself. She knew this work couldn't be abandoned because life had to go on. She had to take these melons to the market to make a living, but her mind was always on Quang, on his mother, and what might be happening. When she had finished picking all the melons, she decided to head to the market. The road to the market wasn't far, but today, every step felt heavier than ever. Her legs seemed to want to stop, but her will wouldn't allow it. She knew no matter what, the work had to be done. She smiled weakly when she remembered how Quang used to remind her to be careful when going to the market, to always sell at a reasonable price. But now, where was he? At the market, Linda laid out the melons on a small table, but her mind couldn't focus on her work. People came to buy, exchanging a few words, but Linda's eyes kept scanning the roads, as if hoping someone would come, and that person would be Quang. But he didn't come. There was no sign of him. The market was busy, but her heart only felt the emptiness. The day passed, and as the market began to wind down, Linda packed up her things, looking at the dwindling melons in her basket. Even though she had sold quite a lot, the joy from the work was gone. The worries about Quang, about his mother, still clung to her, making her feel like she was living in a silent world where everything had stopped and there was no one to share her burdens with. Returning home, Linda went back to the garden, looking at the melon rows she tended to every day. She missed Quang, missed the times they worked together in the garden, the evenings they sat under the tree talking about life. She sighed softly, looking up at the night sky, hoping that one day Quang would return, would explain what happened. But until then, she could only continue living, continue working, and hope that he would come back so she wouldn't have to live in this longing alone. Yet the thoughts of Quang still wouldn't leave her mind. A month had passed, and all attempts to reach him had been in vain. No calls, no messages, only silence. She didn't know if something had happened to him, and she didn't know if his mother was facing any difficulties. She sighed, her heart full of unease, wishing only to hear his voice once more, to know that he was safe. Does Linda know what Quang's mother is going through? Does she understand the pain she has had to endure when Quang's mother was threatened by gangsters pushing her into a crisis situation? All of these events, like a powerful wave, seemed to be crashing down on Quang's mother, forcing her to face unimaginable challenges, pains that no one could ever imagine. And throughout all this time, Linda remains unaware of what is happening. Quang's mother, a kind and hardworking woman, has had to bear painful secrets that even she couldn't fully understand. From not being able to contact her son, to being threatened by criminals who came to her door because of a debt she had no knowledge of, it all seemed to be part of a larger untold story. The confusion, the knots in her mind, have now become an unresolvable mess, unsure of when it will ever unravel. She has only one hope left: to find her son, hoping that Quang will return to resolve everything before it's too late. But while everything slips away from her grasp, can she find him in a world full of mysteries and unpredictable dangers? This story doesn't end with what has already happened. Every detail, every step taken by the characters leads us to a greater secret, a truth we haven't yet imagined. What will that truth be? And who will step up to resolve the enormous difficulties and challenges that Quang's mother is facing? Surely, this unexpected journey won't stop here. To uncover the next developments, the deep secrets within this story, don't miss the next video. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel to follow all the new twists and turns to discover the truth behind everything and experience every emotional shift in this dramatic story.
Chúng ta cùng tiếp tục theo dõi câu chuyện về cảm xúc của Linda, một cô gái mạnh mẽ rất thoát khỏi người trong vực ác. Cô ấy đã trở về an toàn và được mẹ Quang chăm sóc tận tình tại bệnh viện. Dù biết rằng Quang, người bạn trai luôn bên cạnh Linda, đã bỏ rơi công việc để quay về bên cô, nhưng một điều kỳ lạ là suốt mấy ngày qua, anh vẫn chưa gặp Linda. Điều này khiến chúng ta không khỏi thắc mắc, liệu Quang có gặp chuyện gì không ổn? Có phải anh đã bị bắt cóc hay gặp phải một lý do nào đó mà đến giờ vẫn chưa thể quay lại?